Look, I'm gonna be straight with you. What's happening in Iran right now? It's not just another protest. This is different. This could be the beginning of the end for one of the world's most brutal regimes. But here's the kicker: the story isn't just about brave Iranians fighting for freedom. It's about promises made, promises broken, and a deadly game of chicken between Trump, the Ayatollah, and Netanyahu. Let me break this down for you. The massacre that changed everything. Late December 2025. Tehran's Grand Bazaar. Shopkeepers start closing their stores. Why? Iran's currency, the rial, has completely tanked. We're talking 84% of its value gone in 1 year. Food prices up 72%. People can't afford to eat, can't afford medicine, can't afford anything. But here's where it gets real. What started as economic protests turned into something way bigger. People weren't just angry about bread prices anymore. They were chanting death to Khamenei. They were burning pictures of the Supreme Leader in all 31 provinces. This wasn't just Tehran. This was everywhere. And the regime, they panicked. January 8th and 9th, 2026, while the world was cut off, Iran had shut down the internet completely. The Ayatollah gave the order. Live fire on unarmed protesters. The Supreme National Security Council approved it. Every branch of government knew about it. This wasn't some rogue commander. This came from the top. The death toll, here's where it gets absolutely horrifying. Iran initially said hundreds. Then sources inside Iran started talking to journalists. Doctors started compiling numbers. Networks of medical professionals risking their lives to document what really happened. The conservative estimates? At least 12,000 dead. Some sources say 16,500 to 18,000, a network of Iranian doctors, and these are brave people. By the way, they reported seeing bodies stacked on bodies. One witness in Sadat Abad, a wealthy neighborhood in Tehran, said they saw hundreds of bodies in one area alone. 22,000 arrests. Families searching through layers of corpses to find their loved ones. One mother found her son and begged people not to touch him while other families desperately searched beneath stacked bodies. This is one of the largest massacres in modern Iranian history. Let that sink in. Trump's big promises. Now enter Donald Trump, and you gotta give him this: he came out swinging. January 2nd, he posts on Truth Social, "If Iran violently kills peaceful protesters, which is their custom, the United States of America will come to their rescue." Strong words, right? Then January 8th, he's really ramping it up. He's telling protesters help is on its way. All caps, he's saying take over your institutions. He's telling them to say the names of the killers because they'll pay a big price. He even created a slogan, MAGA, make Iran great again. I mean, the guy loves his acronyms. Behind the scenes, it was intense. His national security team was meeting. They were preparing military options. Aircraft carriers were being repositioned. Personnel at Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar, the biggest U.S. military installation in the Middle East, were told to evacuate. Trump told reporters he was locked and loaded. He said if Iran continued killing protesters or started executing them, there would be very strong actions. His press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, was on Fox News saying airstrikes were one of the many options on the table. The world was watching. Iranians in the streets were watching. They believed him. They thought American help was actually coming. Remember Venezuela? Just days earlier, Trump had literally abducted Nicolás Maduro. U.S. Special Forces went into Caracas and grabbed him. The guy who everyone thought was untouchable. If Trump could do that to Maduro, maybe he really would help Iran. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu was pushing hard for strikes. They'd been wanting to hit Iran's nuclear program again. The protests gave them the perfect excuse. Trump's advisors presented him with options. Strike ERG facilities. Hit the Basij militia. Target the security forces doing the killing. Some hawks even suggested going after Khamenei himself, a decapitation strike like Israel did with Hezbollah's Nasrallah. Everything seemed ready to go. The back down. And then, nothing happened. January 14th, Trump suddenly changes his tune. He tells reporters he's been informed by very important sources on the other side that the killing has stopped. He says planned executions have been canceled. Wait, what? The guy who was promising military intervention is now thanking Iran? He posts on Truth Social, "I greatly respect the fact that all scheduled hangings, which were to take place yesterday, over 800 of them, have been canceled by the leadership of Iran. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you." Here's what really happened. And this is where it gets messy. Trump wanted a clean, decisive strike. He told his team he wanted something that would topple the regime quickly. No long war, no quagmire, swift and decisive. But his advisors couldn't guarantee that. They ran the scenarios. Strike military sites? Might not help the protesters at all. Could actually make them go home. Strike security forces in city centers? Massive civilian casualties. Kill Khamenei, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps would probably just take over, meet the new boss. Same as the old boss, but potentially worse. Plus, here's the thing nobody's talking about enough: Iran still has near weapons-grade uranium. After last summer's war, when the US and Israel bombed their nuclear facilities, nobody knows exactly where all that material is. A sudden regime collapse could mean a scramble for nuclear materials among different factions, total chaos. Saudi Arabia, the way. Qatar, Oman, they were all calling Trump, begging him not to strike. They don't want Iran to collapse without a clear successor. They definitely don't want a chaotic nuclear scramble in their backyard. And Iran, they were playing Trump like a fiddle. Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi was sending private messages through Steve Witkoff, Trump's special envoy. In public, Iran was all defiant. In private, they were saying the right things, hinting at negotiations, suggesting they might be willing to deal. Trump, who always thinks he can make the best deals, took the bait. Iranians watching this unfold felt abandoned. One activist said the protests lost momentum because people realized help wasn't actually coming. They'd risked everything. And Trump blinked. The Ayatollah strikes back. But Khamenei, he smelled blood in the water. January 17th, the Supreme Leader comes out with a televised address. And he goes after Trump personally. "We consider the U.S. president a criminal," he says, "for the casualties, for the damages, and for the slander directed at the Iranian nation." He's literally calling Trump a war criminal. He's blaming the deaths, thousands of deaths that his own security forces caused on Trump. The audacity is breathtaking. He says the protests were all an American plot, that Trump personally became involved and openly encouraged the protesters by promising military support. He calls the demonstrators foot soldiers of the United States. Meanwhile, Iranian state TV is broadcasting footage from Trump's assassination attempt in Butler, Pennsylvania, with a caption in Farsi, this time, "It won't miss." They're literally threatening to kill the President of the United States. And here's the really twisted part: Khamenei actually admitted that several thousand people were killed. But he blamed the protesters for the deaths, said they were killed with a force that was inhuman, completely savagely, but somehow it's not his fault even though he gave the order for live fire. He warned that Iran will pursue both domestic and international criminals behind the unrest. Translation: mass arrests will continue, show trials will happen, and executions are coming. Trump fired back, calling Khamenei a sick man who should run his country properly and stop killing people. He told Politico, "It's time to look for new leadership in Iran." But words aren't missiles, and Khamenei knows it. What about Israel and targeted assassination? Now here's where it gets really interesting. During last summer's 12-day war between Israel and Iran, Netanyahu's team had an opportunity to take out Khamenei. They knew where he was. They had the capability. Multiple sources confirmed that Israel proposed assassinating the Supreme Leader. Not just proposed, they were ready to do it. Trump vetoed it. Why? His advisors convinced him it wouldn't necessarily help. The ERG might just take over. Could make things worse, not better. But that was June 2025. This is January 2026. Different situation. Israeli officials are now openly saying Khamenei is not off limits as a target. Defense Minister Israel Katz said Khamenei can no longer be allowed to exist. Ambassador to the Yechil Leiter said on ABC that nobody who's threatening the destruction of Israel should be off the target list. Netanyahu himself, in a Fox News interview, said regime change in Iran could certainly be the result of Israel's ongoing campaign. So what's the possibility of a targeted strike now? It's complicated. Israel has proven it can penetrate Iranian defenses. They've killed IRG commanders, nuclear scientists, degraded air defenses. They've done precision strikes deep inside Iran. But Khamenei is 86 years old and paranoid. After the Hezbollah strikes that killed Nasrallah, he went into hiding during the June war. He's been rooting out spies and potential informants for months. The intelligence challenge is real. If Israel and the U.S. did coordinate a strike to take him out, it would have to be surgical. Perfect intelligence. Perfect execution. And even then, what comes next? That's the trillion-dollar question nobody can answer. The IRG controls the weapons. They control the security apparatus. Killing Khamenei doesn't automatically mean freedom for Iran. But here's what I think is really going on. The possibility is absolutely on the table. Trump and Netanyahu have both shown they're willing to take actions previous administrations wouldn't. Venezuela proved that. The June strikes on Iran's nuclear facilities proved that. The question isn't capability, it's timing and consequences. Where we stand now. So where does all this leave us? The protests have died down for now. The brutal crackdown worked, at least temporarily. Internet has partially returned. Tehran looks calm on the surface, but that calm is enforced by fear. 3,000 people dead. Minimum 22,000 arrested. Show trials starting. The regime is prosecuting people for waging war against God, which carries the death penalty. Iran is weaker than it's been in decades. They lost Syria. Hezbollah is degraded. Their nuclear program took massive hits. Their currency is in free fall. The aura of invincibility is gone. But Khamenei is still there. The IRG is still loyal. The security apparatus is intact. Trump made big promises and backed down when it got complicated. He's now pivoting to what he does best: threats and sanctions. New sanctions on Iranian officials. Tariffs on any country doing business with Iran. Maximum pressure. Version 2.0. But Iranians remember. They remember the promises. They remember help is on its way. They remember being told to take over institutions. And then they remember being left to face bullets and batons alone. The Ayatollah humiliated Trump by calling him a criminal and blaming him for deaths that the regime itself caused. And Trump, for now, isn't doing much about it beyond angry tweets and calling for new leadership. Netanyahu is still pushing. Israel still wants to strike. The possibility of a targeted assassination remains real. But here's what I think is the bottom line. Trump got cold feet when his advisors couldn't guarantee a clean outcome. Iran played him by offering hints of negotiation. Khamenei crushed the protests and then rubbed it in Trump's face. The Iranian people paid the price. Thousands of them, with their lives. And that's the real tragedy here. Not the geopolitical chess game. Not Trump's ego or Khamenei's propaganda. It's the bodies stacked in morgues. It's the mothers searching for their sons. It's the young people who believed change was possible and paid with their blood. Will there be another opportunity? Maybe. Iran's problems aren't going away. The economic collapse is real. The hatred of the regime is real. This might have been round one, not the final battle. But next time, if there is a next time, Iranians will remember how this round ended. They'll remember who made promises and who kept them. That's the story. That's where we are. And honestly, it's heartbreaking.